Hey guys, good morning to you. It's another beautiful day here in Montreal. I'm coming to you live from Montreal, Canada, and this is the show, The Reason You Are Broke. This is the show where we have those conversations about money and about life, those conversations that most people don't talk about. We will talk about all of those things on this show. Today on this show, there is no guest. But you know what? I'm doing something different today. You could be my guest on the show today. You could be my guest. Yeah. I'm going to post a link right here. The very first link that you would see in the comments. That's a link that would allow you to click in and join the show live. So if you click on that link right now, it's going to bring you directly into the studio and I can add you into the show. So be ready to go on live if you're coming with me. Okay. So that said, what we're talking about today is community habits. Those community habits that are keeping us broke. As we're going to be talking about those things today, I want to warn, first of all, some people are going to get angry at everything that I'm talking about today. But if you get mad at any of those things, I just want to ask you a question. Why? Ask yourself why you're getting angry if you do get angry at any of the things that we talk about today. Okay? All right. That said, let us know where you're watching from. And please, as you join us, please share. Please give a thumbs up. And put a comment. Just let me know where you're watching from. Let me know if you can hear me live. Let me know anything. Just put your comments in the comment section and I would be able to say it's a question you have. Put them in the comment section and we can talk about those. Okay, community habits. I'm going to dive right in. The very first thing that I want to talk about as a whole is debt. Debt, credit card debt, car loans, student loans, lines of credit, all of those things. As a community, we've made it so normal. We've made it so normal for those things to be a part of us that it has actually become a habit. It's like I've always said, debt is a habit. Debt is not a math problem. Debt is a habit because if the math tells you you can't afford any of the things that you're trying to buy, well, not everything, but if you're in debt, the things that you bought that took you into debt, you couldn't afford those things essentially. So first of all, let me remind you what it means to be broke. I'm not talking about poor people. Poor, it's a completely different thing. A poor person doesn't have a steady source of income. A poor person doesn't have, a poor person isn't assured of where their next meal is coming from. No steady source of income. They're not sure of where the next meal is coming from. They don't have food, shelter, clothing, transportation. Those are things that they struggle with every single day. Those are not the people I'm talking about. I am talking about broke. I'm talking about broke people. Who are broke people? Broke people have a source of income. They have food, shelter, clothing, they have transportation, they have all of those things. They seem to be living a really comfortable life. But what makes them broke is the fact that all of those things are mismanaged. They don't have any income. Well, they have income, but they don't have any money left at the end of the period in order to take care of those things that really matter because they're spending more than they earn. They're spending way above their means. They're in debt. They're living paycheck to paycheck. So those are the people I'm talking to. Those are the people I'm talking about. I'm not talking about broke people. I'm not talking about poor people. I'm talking about broke people. Sorry, I got that mixed up there. So the reason you're broke, the name of the show, we explore all those things, all those reasons that are keeping us broke, all those things that, all the reasons why we're broke, we're exploring all of those things in there. So, and a habit, like I said, community habits, a habit is something that you have done over time, over and over again, that at some point it just goes on autopilot and you don't even think about it before doing it anymore. So community habits are those things that as a community, we have, maybe the first time we did them, we thought about them, but right now we've gone on autopilot and we just do them without even thinking at all. We do them without thinking at all. So the first one I said was debt. And what makes us to get into that debt? It's a lot of people are trying to keep up. Let me use the word, the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. Joneses is not our name, but it's not one of our names in Cameroon or in our community. But keeping up with the Joneses You all know what I'm talking about when I say keeping up with the Joneses. You see your neighbor or you see your friend, they go buy a brand new car, yeah, and you want to buy the same thing. You see your friend, they go on vacation, and you're like, oh, those people are going on vacation, and I want to do the same thing. And you go on vacation as well without thinking if they had the money to go on vacation or if you have the money to go on that vacation. Another big one I've really seen around is people buying houses, and the person who's trying to keep up says, oh, if those people can buy a house, I can buy a house. So you're trying to keep up, and you want to have the best house in the neighborhood because you want everybody to be, you want to be the talk of the town. You want to be the one that everybody looks at to say, hey, they have the best house, but you're really just trying to keep up. So that competition, that keeping up with the Joneses. But one thing you need to know is that the Joneses are broke, absolutely broke. If nobody ever told you that, know that the Joneses are broke. Okay, the other thing which I think is going to give a lot of, it's going to get people really worked up is this notion of GoFundMe. Why do we use GoFundMe for everything? I want somebody to give me the answer to that question. Why do we use GoFundMe for everything? GoFundMe, first of all, I have nothing against the company GoFundMe. They're doing amazing. They're doing amazing. They have a reason for being there. And as a community, we're abusing it. We're abusing GoFundMe. GoFundMe was actually created, to the best of my knowledge, is one of those things that was created to help raise funds for something, for a cause. GoFundMe was created to help raise funds for a cause, right? But as a community, what I've seen us doing with GoFundMe, we use it for everything. Somebody passes away, and the very first thing you see is a GoFundMe has been set up to help send the remains of this person home. It's a tragedy when a person passes away, and it's a very sad thing. It's a thing that's very emotionally draining. Of course, it's going to be financially draining and all of that. But there are things that have been set up within our community to take care of those. If I name, for example, in the US, there's this thing called SAGI. SAGI. And in Canada, there is this thing called RPN. Those two things, to the best of my knowledge, are created to help return your remains back home. So if you know that when you pass away, you would want to be buried in your country, Cameroon, it's a simple thing. Register for I'm saying GoFundMe. Register for RPN or register for SAGI, right? You pay a contribution into it. And I'm not trying to sell you on SAGI or on RPN. I'm just telling you that those are options that are available to take care of those things that you're trying to take care of. You want your remains to be sent back home. You want your family to be cared for when you pass away. You want to not be a burden to your family when you die. Oh my God, why do I keep saying GoFundMe? RPN, right? RPN, that's what it does. I have been in a group with some people who were talking about donor fatigue. Like they are just so tired of this thing of every single day or every single week. They're trying to raise funds for this thing, for this person that passed away because they're trying to send the remains back home. But if that person was registered for RPN or SAGI, those associations release some funds to you to help you take care of that immediate thing, right? Of that immediate expense of sending the remains back home. And then if you're thinking about who's going to take care of your family when you pass away, guess what's there? Life insurance. Life insurance is there for a reason. I know a lot of us don't think about life insurance at all. It's not a thing it wasn't a thing as in an in thing, as in a community habit. It's not one of those things that people like to think about, because when you start thinking about life insurance, you're thinking about death, right? And nobody really wants to think about the fact that they're going to die. But guess what? We're all going to die someday. If you have people who depend on you financially, if you have children who depend on you financially. You have a spouse who depends on you financially. It's not because they're not working, but just the fact that as a family you have two incomes, and when you die, it goes down to one income. That person is going to be struggling to deal with the emotional trauma that your death has caused them. They shouldn't be worried about the financial aspect as well. You should care for your family enough to get life insurance to make sure that when you exit, it's not if you exit, everybody is going to exit the world. When you do, those people who depend on you financially are taken care of. That's what life insurance does. So if you want me to bring somebody on the show who's going to talk about life insurance, definitely I could bring the person. I don't sell life insurance. I'm not an insurance broker by any means. I'm just a person who's passionate about doing better for our community. And I'm hoping that people can start to change. People can start to do different. People can start to think beyond what is normal in quotes, as in what everybody does. Because GoFundMe, seriously, people, GoFundMe is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. Not the company GoFundMe, but the notion of the very first thing that happens when somebody passes away is we're suddenly raising funds on GoFundMe to send the person's remains back home. We can do better as a community. Oh, I do see comments coming in. Thank you so much for all your comments. I'm going to put them up on the screen just so we can discuss them. Bless you, sis, and get me a day and a white that. Meaning that people do GoFundMe, we can't get me a day, bro. Okay. Here it is. People should invest in life insurance in case of their death. I think that's what it's meant to say. Easy charity, hoping in the compassion of others. Which, again, I'm going to say, yes, we all have to be compassionate. But there's this thing called donor fatigue. I've heard countless people talk about it. Man, another GoFundMe. Man, another contribution. Man, another this. Man, another that. But the thing is, a lot of people that I've met in these scenarios, they're tired of the giving, but they are guilty to not give because they say, no, but this person really, really needs our help. This person, if we don't take care of this, then they can't send the remains back home and this and that. So yes, we have to be compassionate, and I'm really for compassion, but at the same time, the Bible tells us God loves a cheerful giver. If you're going to be giving and you're giving and complaining at the same time, which is what I've heard a lot of people do, and they're like, another death, these people, another death, and things like that. Nobody's gonna. We don't know when we're gonna die. It's gonna happen someday. So maybe it's gonna happen now when you still have kids who are depending on you. Maybe it's gonna happen later when your kids don't depend on you anymore. You don't know, and that's why there is life insurance. That's why there are things like those, like the SAGI and the RPN and all of those things that are there to help us in those situations. Again, if you want to come on the show, guys, and just join me, there's a link right there. Click on the link. It brings you right into the studio and you can make your voice heard. Okay, super interesting comments there. The other thing that I want to mention about the community habits that are keeping us broke is the fact that we don't talk about money in the family. A lot of us don't talk about money in the family, maybe because of the way that we grew up. Back home, money was one of those taboo topics. Money was one of those things that nobody, it's one of those things that I don't know what word to use. If you could help me out there in the audience, help me with a word to use. But money was one of those topics that it's like you don't ask somebody how much they make. You don't ask somebody how much debt they're in. You don't ask somebody just those things that, and you don't talk about. Lots of wives, truth be told, don't know how much their husbands make. And lots of husbands, truth be told, don't know how much money their wives make. But yet you're a family. Yet you're trying to raise kids together. Yet you're trying to make sure that your everyday needs are met, but you don't know how much you have in the family bowl, so to speak, in the family purse. Last time on the show, I had a guest. His name was Jacob. If you watched that episode, he was talking about his experience during marriage counseling when he saw a couple that was having this marital difficulties, and it all came down to the fact that the husband had never exposed to the wife how much money he made, and the wife was always making this kind of demands on the husband, which the husband couldn't afford. But the wife kind of thought that he was lying. And what I'm saying is, when you don't get to talk about money, when you don't get to have those conversations with your spouse, when you don't get to have those conversations with your children, expectations are created, those expectations that just lead downhill, because everybody starts getting disappointed because mom isn't doing this for me, or dad isn't doing this for me, or my husband isn't doing this for me, or my wife isn't doing this for me, because you think that they have more money than they actually do have. So as a community, we really need to start having conversations about money. We really need to start being intentional with our money. We need to start, we need to break those habits that we grew up with, break those habits of not talking about money, break those habits of depending on handouts. That's another one, a community habit. It's really depending on handouts. And very closely linked to that is the aspect of enabling people. Someone asked me, how do I know if I'm enabling somebody or if I'm helping somebody? How do you know? Deep down, you know. Deep down, you know if you're enabling somebody or if you're helping somebody. But I'm just going to give you a few pointers. How do you feel after helping that person? How do you feel? Do you feel cheerful, or do you feel resentful? If you feel resentful, deep down, that resentment is telling you something. I had a friend who told me that there was somebody who called her to tell her they needed some money to go clear the container from the port. And this particular person who needed money actually already owed this friend some money. And the friend was like, okay, I'm going to help you, because they're feeling guilty that if they don't help, then they're thinking maybe your container that's on the port is not going to be cleared and I could do something about it. But they helped. And at the end of the day, they didn't feel good about it. Why? Two things. First, the person was taking advantage of them because they had already helped them before and the money was never returned. And they're coming again. So in that situation, I'm just going to tell you that, you know what, that's enabling. It's not helping. This person who came to you asking for help is taking advantage of you. And somehow you know it. So how do you feel after helping somebody? If you feel cheerful, for the most part, it was really help. If you feel resentful, if you feel like, I know they're just wasting my money, that deep down, you know, like I said. The other thing is, are your actions helping to create this person? Are your actions helping this person to become more dependent or to be more autonomous? The actions you did, are they helping the person to become more dependent or to become more autonomous? Example, say there is, let me use a very common thing among us. Guys, they have their drinking buddies. So weekends, Fridays, maybe they go out and they're hanging out with all their friends and they're drinking, right? It's the weekend. Thank God it's Friday and people are out having fun and all whatnot. But this person is a family person, and this person knows that the family depends solely on them, right? But they don't have any money set aside for family emergencies. They don't have any money set aside for important things that could happen. But on Friday, they're out there having fun and having a good time with their friends and just shacking. What, right? That's the word. A few days down the road, there is an emergency. There is a situation that actually needs them to spend some money because it's a life or death situation. Guess what happens in that kind of situation? The person will go around asking for friends. Can you please help me? Can you please help me? If that kind of person comes to me, truth be told, I'm not helping. Because me helping you in that situation is enabling you. Because you know you're a provider. You know you're supposed to be a provider. You know you should be setting money aside for important things. Yes, have fun. Yes, have some me time. But put it in perspective. Have you set aside funds for emergencies that when something happens in your family, you will be able to, you will have the funds to turn back to you, and you wouldn't have to go start asking for handouts from people. So the handouts thing is really closely linked to enabling. So if you're a person who if the person was asking you for help, you the person giving, if you know that your actions of helping this person is going to create more, you're going to encourage the behavior of not being intentional with your money, of not being disciplined, then you're the enabler. You whatever you're doing, you think you're helping them, but you're not helping them, you're enabling them. The other thing to check is, does the person have some skin in the game? A very common example, we here in the diaspora, we have access to a lot more money than some people back home, but than most people back home. And we know that the people who are going to come over to you and ask you, I have this business that I'm trying to start, and the business needs, in CFA, the business needs, say, 200,000 francs CFA. I have already come up with 100,000. I'm trying to find a way to raise the remaining funds. That person has skin in the game. They have come up with 100,000. They're looking to get some help from you to raise the remaining one. If you have the remaining 100, of course you can give it to them. If you don't have it, but you feel like you want to help, by all means, you need to go ahead and help. That's you helping somebody who has skin in the game. That's you helping somebody who, by your help, they will be more autonomous. They will be less dependent. You're helping them to create something. You're helping them to take care of themselves. The Bible says if you give a man a fish, you turn him into a beggar. Maybe the Bible didn't say that, but if you teach him how to fish, you've helped him to become a creator. You've helped him to become a provider. If you give him a fish, you feed him for one day. If you teach him how to fish. So this person coming to you and asking for help, and they have skin in the game, and you helping them, that's totally helping. That's not enabling. So the community habit that lies in this thing, it's the enabling versus the helping. We enable. We really, a lot of times we're enabling people. We're enabling their bad behavior. And it goes back to the thing of GoFundMe. It goes back to the thing of all these contributions left, right, center. As a community, there are lots of things that we could do to show support. Just being there physically, emotionally, psychologically, being there for somebody is very good. Financially too, it's good, but make sure you're not enabling. Make sure you're not enabling. Make sure you're helping. A lot of times we're enabling. This GoFundMe thing has been going on and on and on and on because we, the people who give money on those things, we're enabling it. So if you want it to stop, you know what to do. Tell this person, go and register whoever it is that's in your family. Go register them for SAGI. Go register them for RPN. You're the provider in the family. Go get life insurance. Children don't need life insurance, in my opinion, because nobody depends on them financially. But you are a parent. You are a provider. You have people who depend on you financially. You need to get some sort of life insurance to make sure that if you're gone, the people who depend on you will be taken care of. I'm going to go to a few questions here and a few comments here. This is a comment from Noella. Life insurance is just what it is. People die suddenly and in some cases leave behind huge debt. GoFundMe will not clear that. There are cases where life insurance has been used to settle these debts, which goes a long way to ease the stress during this time of grief. Let's not forget, in this country, debts are inherited alongside wealth. We try not to have debt, but how many people actually succeed in this credit-driven society? That is so true, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. So true. Thank you for that, Nella. Gang says, talking about enabling people. Some of our people have a false sense of entitlement and will guilt their family members into always sending money. Undue pressure. If you have to borrow to help someone, then something is wrong. That is so true. That is so true. I had a post I'd done on Facebook a few months ago. Helping somebody with your income, with your salary, helping somebody, and then you turn around and depend on your credit card for your everyday expenses. It's exactly the same thing as borrowing money to help somebody. I'll say that again. Giving all your money to somebody or sending money to somebody who needs help, in quotes, and then you turn around and you depend on your credit card for everyday expenses. It's the same like borrowing money, taking that cash advance or whatever. It's like borrowing money from somebody to go and help somebody. So many things are wrong in that. First, you're enabling that person. Second, you're stealing from yourself and from your family. And do you know how long it's going to take for you to keep paying? Just think about how much interest you pay on your credit cards for all the outstanding balances that you have. Just think about how much. Is it really worth it, the help that you were helping that person? You think you were helping that person, and we all also know, I've been in university and I've had friends in university when we're back in UB. There were people who would just sit and they want to strike. There's a strike deal, right? You just call somebody because you have somebody who was in the diaspora and you say, you know what, we have this party coming on. What can I tell them so that they can send me money? And they're going to say, okay, we have a project coming on. We need to pay this much money for the project. Or we have this coming up and we need to pay this. And you're just calling your people in Bush to make them send money. But when they send the money, you know what happens? You're there at Moliko Junction and you're having fun and you become like the don. You're the don. You're the one giving rounds to everybody. Why am I saying this? Sometimes the people who are asking us for money don't need it. They just want it. So if you turn around and you take your hard-earned money and you're this kind of person who never says no, doesn't know how to say no to anybody for anything, they ask you for X amount of dollars, you go around, you take your hard-earned money and you send it over, and then you turn around and you're spending on credit cards. You just borrowed money on your credit card to send somebody to the bar or to take care of the whole quartier, the whole neighborhood of the university so that they can just sit around and like, oh, my grand said they bush. I've seen it happening so many times, and we are the ones in Bush right now, and we're doing the same thing. And sometimes we know that this person was asking me for money, doesn't even need it. This person was asking me for money, doesn't even need it. I say, okay, guys, it's a child. I don't suffer for matter who strike deal. That is so true. That is so true. For those who have been in the diaspora for a long time, and if you've had people in university, you've definitely enabled, unfortunately. All right, so keep putting your questions. I want somebody to join me here on this show right now and talk about this thing of this community thing of handouts. I don't know why we're so dependent on handouts, entitlement, handouts. It's like the other thing that I've seen happening very often. Like I said, I'm not against community. I'm for community. There's some really, really, really good things about our community that we need to keep. There's that brotherhood or the sisterhood, or knowing that when you're down, there's somebody you can walk over and talk to. Just that thing. You don't need to be blood related. You don't need to be biologically related to know that you can find a friend or an acquaintance in this person. There's that community living, which is really good about us. And I really want to encourage that. But I want us to separate that community aspect from the enabling and from the bad habits that as a community we have formed. We really need to separate that. Another really big community habit that we've actually given a name to it, lateness. We've actually given a name to it, Black man time or African time. And now we think it's cool. We think it's cool. It rubs off on every single thing. We are capable of doing better. We are capable of showing up to places on time. We are capable of handling our finances. We're capable of building wealth. We are capable of all those things. How do I know we're capable of being on time? Have you ever missed a flight? You didn't show up 1 hour late on Black man time to go get in the airplane. You actually showed up about 2 hours before time because you need to go through all the check-in and everything. You're capable of showing up on time if you just make up your mind that you're going to show up on time. You have an occasion, say your occasion is starting at 5 p.m. You put the time 5 p.m., but deep down you know that people are going to start showing up around 7 p.m. or maybe like 9 p.m. And then when people actually show up at 7 p.m., because some people in the community have decided, you know what, I'm not doing this Black Man Time thing anymore. If you tell me your occasion is at 5 o'clock, I'm going to show up at 5 o'clock. They show up and they are disappointed because they show up at 5 o'clock and nobody else is there. Or they show up at 5 o'clock and you, the host, you're not even ready for your occasion to start at 5 o'clock. So the people who are trying to break the habit, it's kind of very hard for them to even break that habit because it's a community that does it. Everybody does it. When you're having this laid back attitude towards your everyday things, towards life, towards time, towards there's just general nonchalance, it rubs off on everything else around you. I've heard people say time is money. Time is money. Time is money. And we all have a limited amount of time here on this planet Earth. Do you want to waste your time? When you're wasting your money, you're also wasting your time. So, people, we need to change. We need to change. We need to do something about this. We need to do something different about this GoFundMe. We need to do something different about fundraising. Yes, let's raise funds for causes. Let's sit down as a community and say, we want to build a new community center. We want to build a Cameroonian cultural center or something, right? Let's say we want to do a thing like that. A thing where we would teach our children some of the things that we learned from back home. That's a cause. You want to build that cause. Start a GoFundMe for that. And let's contribute into something like that. That's a cause. And I will happily contribute into a cause because it's not something that one person needs to finance, or it's not something that one person has to take care of, but it's something that you're doing for the community. That's what GoFundMe is for. That's what the fundraisers are for. If people on this earth know that they're going to die, which they're all going to die, get ready for it. If you want to be buried in Cameroon, put plans in place to make sure that when you exit, there is the money there to take care of your remains being sent back home. Let's stop putting burdens on everybody. Let's stop putting burdens on the community as a whole. Let's stop. Let's stop. Let's really stop. I'm praying we can stop. And I'm praying we can start building wealth. I'm praying we can start getting intentional with our money. I'm praying we can start paying off our debt, living within our means, below our means, so that you can keep some money aside to start building a legacy. I'm hoping we can start doing that. I would love to take your questions. If there's anybody in the audience who has a question or who has a comment, I would love to take your questions. If you want to come on the show right now to make your voice heard, I would love to have you here. Click on the link, which is the very first comment on YouTube or on Facebook. If you click on the link, it's going to bring you right in here. I would love to have you on. Nobody? Okay. Okay. Next week on the show, we will be talking about student loans. It's one of those things that are holding a lot of people back. We will be talking about student loans. Our guest that's going to be on the show next week, she has paid over $150,000 off in student loans. I'm very excited about the show for, it's not next week, it's next 2 weeks, the other Saturday. I'm very excited for that episode because she's going to be showing us one of those things that also as a community, people have said, you can't pay off your student loan. So just it's part of you. You can never pay it off. She paid off. She will be here on the next episode and she will be talking to us about how she did it and how you too can do it. I know there are lots of people. I spoke to somebody a few days ago and she told me she has like a mortgage in student loans, meaning she has like over $200,000 in student loans and she doesn't even have an income yet. Yeah, so that would be an episode to watch. That would be an episode to watch. Yeah. But one other thing that I've heard people say about this aspect of student loans is somebody told me that their debt is so much that they're just depending on student loan forgiveness, and that she wouldn't even bother about paying off the student loans because she cannot pay off the student loans. And in order to qualify for the forgiveness, in order to qualify for this ongoing forgiveness, she has to make below a certain amount of income. She has to make below a certain amount of income. She has to work at a particular kind of job, at a particular kind of location. And while I'm thinking about all of that and I'm saying, well, it's a good thing you're going to get your loans forgiven, I'm also thinking on the other side, how much do you have to limit yourself in order for your loan to be forgiven? You have the ability to make a lot more income, but you're keeping your income below a certain amount because you want to qualify for student loans, for student loan forgiveness. You have the ability to work in any place you want to work at, but you're limiting that to a certain geographical location because you want to qualify for forgiveness of student loans. And that's not for 1 year. It's not like you're going to do that thing for 1 year and then the whole loan is forgiven. You have to do it for 10 years. So think about it this way. While you're sitting there and thinking about my loans are going to be forgiven, I am thinking about how much more money you could have been making if you weren't strapped, if you weren't restricted by this thing you're trying to qualify for. So it's really one of those other community habits. I'm fortunate enough I didn't have that much student loans, but I know lots of people who have mortgage equivalents of student loans. And I'm hoping if you have that amount of mortgage, amount of loans, the thing you studied in school is giving you an income that is comparable to that loan that you acquired. So I hope you didn't go to school to get $100,000 in student loans to study English, for example. Nothing against English, but how much do they pay people who teach English, right? That's my question. I hope you didn't go to school to get $300,000 in student loans to study what? I don't know. I'm hoping if you have 200 plus or 100 plus $1,000 in student loans, you started something that will at least give you an income that reaches that level, so that you give yourself a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year time frame to pay it off. Community habits, you would hardly hear people saying, I plan on paying my student loans. Or you'll hardly hear people saying, I plan on paying my credit card off. Or you'll hardly hear people saying, I plan on buying my car for cash. You'll hardly hear people saying that. But you will hear a lot of people saying, I need to find a way to increase my credit score, or I need to find a way to increase my credit limit, or I need you to please come and co-sign this car loan for me because the bank said I couldn't qualify for it and I need a co-signer. If you co-sign, you're enabling. The only person you should be co-signing with is your spouse, which again is not even co-signing because then you're one. And that's only for things like mortgages, because if it's a car, you should pay for it. If it's what else? Lines of credit, those things. There's so many things that as a community we have normalized, and we just feel like there's no other way because we've not been taught any other way. But when we start to think about things differently, when we start to see things differently, or when we start to expose ourselves to other ways of doing things, then we start to see more possibilities. We start to find better ways of doing things. There's this thing I always say: if you're looking at something and all you see or you're telling yourself you can't do it, all you're going to see are obstacles. But if you tell yourself you can do it, then you start to open up your mind to, how can I do this? You start to open your mind to possibilities. As a community, I think we've heard too much of you can't. I think we've heard too much of that. You can never pay off your credit card. You can never pay off your student loans. You can never do this. You can never do that. I think we've heard too much of you can't, that right now our brains are on the can't level. Start telling yourself you can. Start telling yourself you can. Start telling your children you can. Start telling your spouse you can. Start telling people you can. Not that, no, I'm going to co-sign for you, but that you can get a car without debt. Or you can live in Canada without being in debt, that kind of thing. You can. Start telling people things like that. And start telling yourself things like that, and then open yourself up to the possibilities of making that happen. I'm going to go to comments here. Oh, we shall be here front seat for the student loan talk. That's for the next 2 weeks. Perfect. Got in late. People need to take their lives into their hands and not depend on charity when they're not there. The family will suffer from bad decisions. Yeah, that is true. That is true. I was once asked to co-sign on a brand new car that I wouldn't even buy for myself. And you know, some of those people who come, when they come to ask you to co-sign, they really have guts. They're like, they probably see you driving an old car, and they come to you and like, oh, Ida, can you please co-sign for me? No, hell no, I can't. Because if I'm co-signing, I'm telling you that, or I'm telling the bank, the person who was giving the loan, I'm telling them that if you don't pay for your loan, I've put my signature on a piece of paper and I say, I'm going to pay. That's what co-signing is. You wouldn't buy that kind of car for yourself, yet somebody is coming to ask you to go and co-sign for them. You make a great point about what people study in school. What you study in school matters. So one community habit we can start is having these educational workshops with our young ones to better prepare them for the future. That is true. And also, I think as parents, or as growing up, there's some of those professions that are kind of the prestige profession, or they kind of expect everybody to go do those ones. Lawyer, accountant, engineer, doctor, nurse. Those are the kind of things that they're like, you have to do this, and your family has kind of put it in your mind like this is all you have to do. I think us being here now and us being exposed to so many other trades and so many other professions and so many other things, I think we as parents, we have to, yes, in addition to having these educational workshops to educate people on what on what they can do, I think we as parents need to accept the fact that not everybody wants to be one of those things that I just named. We all live in houses. It's a builder who made this house. We all have electricity. When we switch on the light comes on. It's a person who studied electrical, whatever, I don't even know the name, who's making that possible. So there are lots and lots of professions, there are lots and lots of things that some of those things don't even need a university degree, but they do need the trade training itself. So community-wise, I think everybody is conditioned to being a doctor or being a pharmacist or being a nurse practitioner or being one of those things, which are really, really good, because of course we wouldn't survive without our doctors and all of that, right? So I'm not bashing on any doctor, I'm not bashing on any of that. But what I'm saying is there are so many other things that our kids could be good at. There are so many other things that we can do, which are not limited to these few professions that are like the in professions that we've always seen. So thank you so much for that, Noella. I think it's a really good thing that we should actually start this workshops to talk about, to educate our people, to inform our young ones. Jane says we need to start having these conversations. If someone needs a co-signer, that's a sign that they can't afford. The lines between needs and wants are blurred to many people. Generational wealth would only grow if we stop normalizing being in debt. You can say that again. I've been saying that for like forever. Here's a comment from Noella. Noella, great point. Our parents used to choose for us. We were basically told what your major would be in school. We must do better. Absolutely. It depends on us. It depends on us. I am happy that my parents made me study accounting. I was always good in math at school, from high school. I was always good in math. And when I was going into university, I was telling myself I want to go study math. And they said, but if you go study math, that was in University of Boya. If you go study math, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to be a math teacher? And heck no, I did not want to be a math teacher. Out of Cameroon, of course, there are so many other options. With your math degree, you can definitely do actuarial sciences. You can go into so many other things. But because of what I loved doing, my parents had sat down with me and they said, you know what, my parents and my other sisters and brothers said, this is what we think you should do. And I followed that. I didn't want to do accounting, but I'm happy that they helped me go in that direction. I think in that case, it really, really worked out. But there's sometimes that because some kids have already been labeled, you've labeled your kid to say, this kid is not good at school, you have to go do this. Or this kid is good at school, you have to go be a doctor. Maybe that kid doesn't even want to be a doctor. And that's the reason why you would see some people going to university, even here in America, here in Canada. You would see people go to university. They would start their education and the first year, and they've taken out the student loans or whatever. They've paid school fees for the whole of that first year. And then they refresh. They're choosing a new major the second year because they didn't even like what they did before. And it then comes like they're rebelling and all whatnot. But it's just that we never ever took the time to really listen to them, to really understand what it is that they wanted, and to really help guide them to see, if you do this subject, this is how much it's going to cost you. This is how much income you could probably make, and things like that. When you put the whole picture out and you help your kid make that decision, it's their decision to make. Yes, you are the parent to them, but by the time that our kids graduates from school, they will be an adult and they will be the ones living their lives with those choices that you forced them to make. So I think as parents, we need to educate more than inform, and we need to listen to our kids. As a community, as a society, we really don't do that a lot. That's the African community I'm talking about. We really don't do a lot of that. And we've conditioned ourselves to think that our kids have to do medicine, law, accounting, or one of those things. So the trades are an option. Most of the trades don't need a university degree. And yes, it's okay to not go to university. Not everybody has to go to university. But everybody has to be successful because you were born to win. You were born to create. Whatever you're creating depends on what your God-given talents are. So let's really have those conversations. Thank you so much for all the comments. Thank you for so much insight that you guys have put in here. I'm really loving it. And I would love to see more and more and more comments. I would love to see more and more. And I would go back to talking about debt. I cannot emphasize this enough. I cannot emphasize debt enough. You can build a credit score without staying in debt. My guest who was on the show, on the episode we're talking about buying a house, she bought her house without being in debt. Yes, she was using a credit card, but no, she was not in debt, meaning that she used a credit card as a debit card. Meaning she would swipe and she would pay off right away, or she would swipe and she would pay off within the week. It wasn't one of those things that, like, community has said, you can't build a credit score without being in debt. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Without staying in debt. You're using debt to build it, but you don't have to stay in it in order to have that credit score. It's one of those things. And people are always out there trying to chase the credit score, trying to increase every single time the bank calls you. Hey, there's this thing. The bank calls you and they're like, when you come as an immigrant, right? When you come as an immigrant, if you're fortunate enough, they will give you a credit card without it being a secured credit card, meaning you wouldn't have to put down some money. If you're one of those very fortunate few, I know I had to put down money to get my first credit card. But I didn't need to increase my credit limit at all. But I did. I kept increasing it because, hey, the bank called me one day and they said, well, they sent this one of these things that they put within your online profile, and they say, you're eligible for a credit increase. Do you want to accept it? I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even understand any of it. So I think the people that were around me at the time, and I asked them, I said, the bank is saying this and this. Should I do it? Yes, do it. That was the answer. Yes, do it. Take the money. You never know when you will need it. So in my mind, I'm conditioned. This is the way it works. The bank is going to call you to increase your credit limit. Always say yes. That was a habit I picked up from the people around me. Again, I came from Africa. I came from Cameroon without knowing any of this about credit. Like most of you, didn't know any of this about credit. I increase my credit, and that's what we're doing. And people tell you it's going to help you raise your credit score. It's going to be like your emergency fund. It's going to, which is all lies. It's all misinformation. It's all miseducation. We need to take our education into our own hands. Go to the source, ask questions, and ask questions from the right people. There are so many, there's information that the bank has that they're not going to just offer up to you until you ask. They're not lying to you, but they're just not telling you, right? Ask questions. And sometimes when somebody gives you information and it doesn't sit well with you, put it aside, go ask another person. Make your own decisions, find your own information, do your own research. Whatever question you have in your mind, whatever question you're trying to respond to, the answer is somewhere in the book. It's somewhere. But we don't have that habit as a community of reading. We don't. That's one of those other things that we need to encourage. We need to read, not just fiction. And we need to don't sit and watch TV. There's nothing you're learning from TV. You need to read books. You need to read educational books. If there's something that's of interest to you, pick up a book about that thing, read about it. You will learn something you've never known before. Or if it's something you might have known before, it would reinforce whatever it is that you were thinking, or it's going to clarify for you. Find the people who are doing what you want to do. Go talk to them. One of those community habits that I've seen happening a lot is this thing of envy or jealousy or competition in the negative way, meaning you see somebody doing something and instead of encouraging that person, you're rooting for them to fail. Instead of rooting for them to succeed, you're rooting for them to fail. Well, you don't know that person's success is going to bring up the community as a whole. Because now the kids are going to have somebody to look up to. If they can do it, I can probably do it. Go talk to them. You see somebody who's in real estate and they're doing well and you want to do real estate, you want to sell real estate, go talk to them. How are you doing it? Do you think it's something I could do? We need to start having those conversations. We need to break this habit of envy, this habit of jealousy, this habit of trying to pull everybody down. And we need to find ways to raise people up, raise ourselves up. It starts from within. It starts from doing that self-examination. And it all comes back to money. It's all related to money. It's all in some way. If you're in debt, if you're struggling to make ends meet, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, guess what you don't have? Peace of mind. You don't have the peace of mind to think, to reflect, to ask yourself, where do I want to go? What do I want to be doing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? And what are the things I can be doing today? What's the one thing I should be doing this very minute to make sure that my 5-year goal is met, so that my 10-year goal is met, so that my someday goal is met? Who are the people I can talk to right now to help me get started in this direction that I'm trying to go to? What can I do? There's this lady who's been saying you can get out of debt. Yours truly. There's this lady who's been saying you can get out of debt. Let me go talk to her and ask her how I can do this. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Everybody has made a mistake, one mistake or another. I bought brand new cars. I've laughed at myself, but I've learned from my mistake and I've moved on. And now it's a thing of the past. And now I can open my mouth and tell people, don't buy a brand new car. Don't buy a brand new car. I can actually open my mouth and tell people that. So let's take our lives into our hands. Let's take our futures into our hands. Don't wait and depend on the government taking care of you. When COVID happened, I put a post on Facebook. I said, in times like this, I am very grateful that I listened to, I think the name I put was Dave Ramsey. I said, in times like this, I'm very happy that I listened to Dave Ramsey. Why was that? Because several months before this COVID thing started, personally, we had said, my husband and I would said, we need to do something different, and we started changing the way we were handling our finances. And so when COVID happened, when everybody was panicking and struggling to do this and thinking, how am I going to survive? I was not. Yes, I was worried about the disease part of the whole thing, because that was an unknown. But financial stress was not one of the things for me. Not because I had a lot of money, but because I knew exactly how much money I needed to see me through. And I knew what I could do to make sure that we were okay. Because we had already examined our finances, we had already cut back on a lot of things. We were okay. And yes, I had to stay home for like 2-3 months because all daycares and schools were closed. So the kids had to stay home. So I had to stay home because my husband is a nurse. Those are decisions that we made as a family. And those are things that it was easy for us to do. Those are decisions that were easy for us to take. Why? Because as a family unit, we had set down those foundations that made it possible for us to make those decisions at that time. So what am I saying, and why am I saying all of this? Take your life into your hands. Take matters into your hands. Don't sit and wait for COVID to be finished before you start doing better. Don't sit and wait for the government to give you this handout before you start paying debt. Don't sit and wait for your raise or for your company to start treating you better before you start doing certain things. Don't sit and wait for that. Get up. Start doing something today. Maybe you can't change the whole community as a whole at once, but you can change what you do, because you're the only person you can control. You could change what you do. Do you have life insurance? Go get it. If you don't, are you registered for SAGI? Are you registered for RPN? And again, I have no affiliation to any of those things. I'm just telling you what it is that's out there. If you don't have life insurance and you have people who are depending on you financially, go get life insurance. If you know you want to be buried in Cameroon when you die, not if you die, when you die. If you know you want to be buried in Cameroon, make arrangements for that. Go register for RPN. They would give money to your surviving whoever is around to make sure that your remains get sent back home. If you want to get out of debt and you have no idea how to do that, come talk to me. That's what I do. That's the coaching I offer. I'm so happy that there's so many people here today. I'm just going to go back and take whatever other comments have come in before we wrap up. And if somebody still wants to join me on the show, you're more than welcome. It's just a few minutes to the end. But if you want to join me, you're more than welcome. Let's see here. I agree. Kids leave high school and go to vocational training and excel in their fields. Absolutely, that's true. I've known kids who were struggling in general education. Back when we were in Lords, there were kids who were struggling in general education, and they took those kids out and put them in technical school, and they were excelling. They excelled. And right now, I think one of them is in Polytech. They went through Polytech and they ended up, I don't even know what they're doing right now, but I'm so happy that their parents took that child out of Lords, because they were struggling in general education, and the kid was kind of labeled as a dull kid, but the kid wasn't a dull kid. She was just in the wrong field, in the wrong school, in the wrong educational system. She was better at technical or hands-on doing things. Comment here, can't overstate the importance of asking questions. In North America, you have to ask the right questions to get the right information. Nobody volunteers information. You have to ask. Challenge the information you receive and ask more questions until it makes sense to you. Yes. Yes and yes. I'm going to wrap up this segment by reminding you again, you were born to win. You were born to create. Get intentional with your money. Get intentional with your finances. Change you. And then the people around you are going to get inspired by your change, and they are going to pick up and do their changes that they need. And little by little, we're going to change the community. But it all starts with you. You were born to win. You were born to create. Go do that. It's been an amazing hour. I'm so happy to have you all here. And I'm going to see you in 2 weeks, and we will be talking about student loans. Have an amazing day, everyone.